Elf bowling is the weirdest and most irreverent game to come out of the 90s, and I absolutely love it. It poses Santa as a corporate leader trying to break down his workers as they strike, and so he uses them as bowling pins to quite literally strike them down. But something I've always wanted to find out is the history and the myths behind Santa and his elves. An odd thought to have, I know, but it's what got us to this point. So let's find the mythology in gaming. Hello! That's right, folks, it's Christmas time. I hope you are all having the very merriest holiday season. There's honestly nothing better than sharing some nostalgia with friends. So let's learn about some elf bowling. Released in 1998 and made by the now bankrupt Envision Studios, Elf Bowling is a .exe bowling game, meaning that there wasn't an actual game to buy. Instead, you would just go to a random site that actually supported the game. It shows Santa in a distinctly different light than what we've come to know, as he uses his elves as pins to knock them down. But before we look into the myths of jolly old Saint Nick, I want to take a moment to understand Santa's elves, and who, or really what, they are. Originating from Norse and Germanic myth just over a millennia ago, the elves went by the names Alfar, Ljósalvar, and Doxalvar, Old English and Germanic terms that meant elves, light elves, and dark elves. These creatures were seen as supernatural beings who were ambivalent to the politics and interpersonal relations of humanity. In contrast to the way we see Christmas elves today, these elves came in all different colors and sizes. Specifically, the light and dark elves have the most distinct differences regarding their appearances. Within the Prose Edda, it states, "Thou knowest many tidings to tell of heaven, that which is called Alfheim, where dwells the peoples called light elves. But the dark elves dwell down in the earth, and they are unlike in appearance, but by far more unlike in nature. The light elves are fairer to look upon than the sun, but the dark elves are blacker than pitch." In descriptions, the light elves are about what you would expect from the thought of what elves would look like, with pointed ears and silken hair. Think Galadriel from Lord of the Rings. However, the dark elves were said to have the darkest skin imaginable, and resembled something akin to the dark iron dwarves of World of Warcraft. For both, this actually makes perfect sense in not only their names, but for the respective regions that they lived in, with the light elves in the realm of Alfheim, among the branches of Yggdrasil, and the dark elves deep within the earth in the realm of Midgard. In addition, both were extremely skilled craftsmen, able to build both sturdy and magical clothing as well as weapons. It would be in the medieval period that the elves, or Alfar at this point, would be depicted living among the humans of Earth. As more people became knowledgeable of the elves' existence, a celebration and even sacrifices, known as Alfalblot, would be made to appease the Norse gods as well as the elves themselves. Over time, the Alfar would be combined with both Celtic worship and the thought of spirits and fairies, producing an elf that maintained its fair skin and pointed ears, but was smaller in stature, like a gnome or the Fae. The elves maintained this appearance for hundreds of years, until eventually becoming associated with the winter solstice. It's sometime during the late 18th to 19th centuries that creatures known as Nisei formed within Nordic folklore. Being a combination of the gnomes and elves, their look is exactly what we now see with the modern Christmas elf. However, these creatures in their interactions with humans were tricksters for those who were deemed naughty, or were gift givers for the nice men, women, and children. Unsurprisingly, these originated alongside a certain fatherly Christmas figure who was growing in popularity at the time.
Skeletons.
I hope there's still time
To fix Christmas? Of course there is. I'm Santa Claus.
It's no surprise that many of us can easily recognize the jolly old man in red, but what you may not know is his many influences and his history. Dating back to the 4th century, the name Saint Nick comes from a literal figure in history, Saint Nicholas. A Greek bishop of Myra within the Roman Empire, now modern-day Turkey, Saint Nicholas was an extremely pious man who devoted much of his life to the Christian faith, as well as providing aid for the poor, even doing much of it in secret, wanting to remain anonymous to prevent anyone from thinking that he was touting his wealth. Amassing this wealth over his lifetime, he gave nearly all of it to children in an effort to keep them fed and out of forced labor. After his death in 343 CE, St. Nicholas was canonized as the patron saint of children for his good and pious actions in the church and throughout his life. As a matter of fact, he became so popular as a patron saint that different groups, such as sailors and even pawnbrokers, claimed him as their patron saint, later becoming the saint of both Amsterdam and Moscow, as well as being named the Lord of the Sea in some Greek and Italian states, as the Christian version of Poseidon. I mean, you've got to be a seriously good and righteous person to be the patron saint of so many people. Also, how many times have I said patron saint at this point? Along with all this, there's even a day of veneration for St. Nicholas, being either December 6th or December 19th, depending on where in Europe you lived at the time. Though during the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century, Martin Luther separated the Catholic Church and moved the day of St. Nicholas to December 24th and 25th, keeping the man as the patron of gift-giving to children to keep them closer to Christ. Moving somewhat back in time to between the 5th and 8th centuries, many of the northern peoples of Europe celebrated the peak of the winter season with the Yule Festival. Here, people would feast, sing, and dance for 12 straight days to honor the old Norse gods. I won't go into much detail here, but this is where we actually get the tradition of collecting the Christmas tree for the season. This is something I'll save for another day, though. But this celebration originated from the motif of the Wild Hunt, a very old Norse legend, where the gods, fairies, and even the elves gathered together to give chase to whatever they desired. Chief and leader among the hunt was the god Odin, sometimes referred to as Woden with a W. He was the one who was perceived as the gift giver to all who partook of the Wild Hunt. Later leading to the festival of Yule, the people would celebrate the Wild Hunt, wanting to be bestowed a gift from Woden. This was mainly due to the fact that much of the hunt took place once the sun had gone down, which is believed to be where we get Santa's sleigh ride through the night. It's here that the combination of both St. Nicholas and Odin begin to form the look and actions of Santa Claus. As St. Nicholas provided the kind and caring gift-giving attitude, Odin provided the festivities and the nightly ride through the sky. On top of this was the fact that both men were old in age. Having profound white beards, this formed a sort of precursor to the modern depiction of Santa. However, the two would not be fully and rightfully combined until the mid-1600s, as the Christian Puritan society grew further and further. During this time, civil war in England had taken hold of the country, leading to the Puritans to rule the government. In their actions for control of everything, they worked tirelessly to ban Christmas and the Christmas season, believing it to have ties to pagan worship of Old Norse gods and old Christian saints. Weirdly enough, a figure formed to stand against the Puritan-controlled government and their abolishment of Christmas, which was none other than Father Christmas, showing up as a political cartoon in a royalist pamphlet. Bet you never thought that you'd get a mythical figure to show up that way, did you? But showing up in 1652 with The Vindication of Christmas by John Taylor, this is our first depiction of Father Christmas, fit with a cloak and gray beard, sharing with the readers how his presence brought nothing but good cheer, fun, and songs to and for everyone. Though the name of Father Christmas wouldn't be officially cited until 1658, when the illustrator and author Josiah King presented the examination and trial of Old Father Christmas, cementing his name as the personification of Christmas and the spirit of the Christmas season. Thankfully, Christmas would be restored to the English people in 1660, allowing many to resume their traditional celebrations. Weirdly enough, the look of Father Christmas would actually present him dressed in a green cloak rather than the red. This is a look that we would actually see and read about in Charles Dickens' 1843 novel, A Christmas Carol, with the character of the Ghost of Christmas Present. By the way, the Muppet version of the Christmas Carol is the absolute best, which, if you have seen it, let me know what your favorite character is down in the comments. If you haven't, go watch it. Like now. Go on. I'll wait. Okay, you back? Great. Over the next 100 years or so, Father Christmas would slowly fade from the traditions that people took part in during the Christmas season. It wouldn't be until the Victorian era that Father Christmas would make a resurgence to the Christmas season with Merry Old England. It's believed that this was a way to inspire the people to be more charitable, romanticize traditions, and provide a bit of nostalgia to the population. At the same time in Northern Europe, namely the Dutch countries like the Netherlands, and others nearby like Germany and Romania, figures of Father Christmas, Woden, and Saint Nicholas were combined to form the namesake and final appearance of the jolly old man. Named Santa Claus, this figure would appear as an older jolly man with a thick white beard. Sporting a large red and white cloak, Santa Claus would ride through the towns, either on horseback or drawn by horses in either a sleigh or a carriage. Something interesting about this figure of Christmas is Santa Claus's helper, Zwart Piet, also known as Black Pete, who is meant to be an elf aiding Santa Claus in his gift-giving to the children of the towns. Now, this goes without saying that blackface is not the most culturally appropriate thing here, especially in the States. But many of the people who do still celebrate the character, especially in Europe, don't necessarily find it to be that insensitive. Just saying. Black Pete is believed to have originated from the two ravens that Odin ventured with, Hugin and Munin, who would listen and watch over everything, providing information to their master. Black Pete, in their formation, is depicted as doing that same thing, listening and watching over the children to see whether they've been naughty or nice, letting Santa Claus know what gifts to give what children. Speaking of, it's with Santa Claus that we have the official naughty or nice list, as it was believed that consistently nice children would get better and better presents, ever expanding Santa Claus's giant bag of toys, goods, and treats. As these figures formed and spread, the name of Santa Claus would eventually reach the Americas, where English speakers would adjust the name of Santa Claus to Santa Claus, maintaining the look and the attitude of the spirit of Christmas, bringing toys, songs, and good cheer to everyone during the Christmas season. Which brings us back to elf bowling, as many consistently see the good cheer and prosperity of the Christmas season. There are many who see the tragedy of it. Many who still have to work during the season to provide for not only their family, but to help others at the same time. Those seeing the elves in Santa's workshop as themselves, working endlessly without proper compensation and representation. Wow, this got dark real fast. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that using the game of bowling provides some levity to a bleak and rough working environment. And using Santa and his elves is the perfect balance between good, cheery holiday fun and some political and societal commentary on the workforce. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the history and even the mythology behind Santa and his elves. If you want to watch more myths, legends, and some history, then check out another video, because that helps out a lot. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.